Professor Rex Parker talks about the unintended consequences of government regulation as it relates to consumer buying habits.
Obviously, there are new cafe regulations that have been put into effect, and I think those regulations have a fair amount of merit. After all, we should strive for as much in the way of fuel efficiency as possible, and very, very aggressive objectives put in place. Fine, that's all well and good. But I'm a little bit leery of what I'll call the laws of unintended consequences here. Last time we had fairly significant cafe objectives in the 1990s, call it the mid-1990s. We had split cafe objectives. One was for cars, it was 27.5 miles per gallon. The other for trucks, which, as I recall, was something in the order of 20.5 miles per gallon. So what did the industry do? The industry produced cars that met the 27.5 mile per gallon requirement, and they also produced trucks that met the 20.5 mile per gallon requirement. But they also did one more thing. They made a whole lot of vehicles that were fundamentally passenger cars and called them trucks. And as a result of calling them trucks, they could get away with a more liberal fuel economy performance than they would have had those same vehicles been classified as cars. And then came in the laws of unintended consequences. They produced a lot of underachieving cars that consumers fundamentally rejected. They had the option of buying a tourist station wagon, but now consumers didn't really want a tourist station wagon because it was cheap and it was chintzy and it was underachieving. And what did they do instead? Consumers, keep in mind, they're smart, they went out and they bought Explorers. And as a result of having bought 500,000 Explorers a year for year after year, they ended up consuming a whole lot more fuel in the aggregate than they would have consumed had they been tempted to buy a normal conventional passenger car instead. So underachieving passenger cars and overly consumptive trucks ended up with the laws of unintended consequence, namely fuel consumption that was far in excess of what it should have been. And it ended up with consumers buying more than they needed to buy. They bought more vehicle, they bought more weight, they bought more mass. They incidentally, in the process, bought less safety but they said, oh no, I'm buying a strong vehicle here, a great big vehicle, that was really a lot more than they needed to transport a single person without any cargo load just back and forth from the grocery store. And those are the laws that I'm worried about here. I'm worried that the industry is going to come up once again with underachieving vehicles, and somehow the consumer is going to find a way to bypass those laws and regulations and cheat the system and end up consuming far more than they either need to consume or than would be desirable from the standpoint of the national economy and national security for them to consume.